Hi, this is Chris. I'm with Socially Awkward Stitching Society, and this is our first episode for our YouTube channel. I'm in Spokane, Washington, where it is currently 97,000 degrees. And so the dog was out playing in his pool. I have shushed him out of the room so that I don't have to deal with his doggy stink while we're talking about how to make an in-the-hoop key fob. The first thing you're going to want to do is when you download your zipped folder, unzip it, and then print out the color change sheet. Sometimes I just leave it up on my computer if it's a simple design, but if it's a complex design or it's the first time I've done something, I like to print it out so I can scribble on it. So what I have here is our GOTH AF key fob. This is page 1. And this shows you the design and where it's going to land in the hoop. And then on the back here, I've got 3 color stops. And an in the hoop design is always going to have a couple of extras. It's going to have one, the first stop, which shows you where to position your vinyl when you lay it over the top. It's got the second stop, which is the actual design, and this may be many stops if it's a multicolor design. And then finally, it has a stop that is going to stitch the front to the back. All right, so we will get there in a moment, but first I want to show you your next step, which is that you are going to hoop up some stabilizer in a hoop that's appropriate for the size of your object. I am using a tearaway stabilizer for this because it's not a very dense design and I'm using a really stable vinyl. If you are using a vinyl that has a lot of stretch or smoosh to it, then you are going to want to use a cutaway stabilizer instead. Okay, now what I just did, you saw me, I hand tighten the corners and I'm pushing these corners down so that this is tight like a drum. Now I'm going to go stitch the first color stop and then we'll come back for the next step. Okay, I am back and this is what your placement stitch looks like. So I've stitched stop number 1. And now I'm going to measure the design. And I'm just going to make sure that I have a measurement that is about 1/2 inch bigger on each edge. So this is going to need a 4x4 piece of vinyl to give me about a 1/2 inch overlap on each edge. And I'm going to need one for the front and one for the back. So I've got those cut. Now you're going to place your vinyl over the top of your design, and I kind of like to slide it on there just to make sure I am sort of centered. You can also kind of look at the edges around your hoop and get an idea of that. Now, some people like to just lay the vinyl in there and stitch away. Unfortunately, I have a Janome which has a very low riding presser foot that moves sometimes in unexpected ways when it's moving from one part of the design to another, and I have had very bad things happen by just trying to hold it in there until it gets started. And once it's curled like this, you really do need to tape it down. So I just used a blue painter's tape, and on a piece this small, it's really enough to put some in the corners like this. I have occasionally, when I've had really curly vinyl, or I have a design where I know it's going to move all over the place, I have occasionally tape down the edges pretty securely all the way around. But this, for this size design, in this size hoop, this should be enough. So now I'm going to go to color stop 2 and stitch my design. The color is going to be 1904, which is a nice deep red in the Isocord poly. Be right back. All right, I'm back with our design all stitched. And you can see I've got a few little jump stitches that need to be cut. I cut a couple while it was stitching just to make it a little easier to not have them get, stomped on with stitching and then try to dig them out like I just did right there. Some people use tweezers. I am really not that coordinated, so I just kind of grab down there with my fingers. And I've got these lovely little curved scissors. They're Gingers. You can get them on, I think they're called double curved embroidery scissors. You can get them on Amazon. And I think that's as close as I want to go with it in the hoop. So I've got most of my jumps. I can come in here and tidy up a little if I need to once I've got it out of the hoop. When I've got a little stubborn one like that guy, it'll let me flex it and get a better, oh, I think I got it. There we go. Okay, yeah, that's going to need a little extra trimming attention after I get it out of the hoop. But we can't do that yet because we have color stop 3, our last color stop, and that one is going to allow us to attach the back and front together. So we're going to flip our hoop over, and you can see where the design is. So you're just going to cover that with your other piece of vinyl and tape it down. Now, we're working with gravity, so we have no choice but to tape it right now. And if you live in a humid climate, I do not, but I understand that folks who live in a humid climate may have more trouble with vinyl sticking to the bed of their machine when it's taped on the bottom of the hoop like this. And I rarely have that problem, although I sometimes will get it with a sticky feeling vinyl like a, like a glitter vinyl. But usually I don't have too much of a problem with this. So I'm going to take this over to the machine and do the last color stop, and then we'll be back and we'll talk about trimming. All right, I'm back again. I've done the last color stop, and as you can see, I made a bit of a mess here. My tail threads that I pulled to the top to help the back stitch cleanly kind of got away from me. You'll want to take a look at the printed instructions. They show you how to pull the thread to the top when you start your last stitch so it doesn't get pulled to the bottom and make a big goober on the back. Let's turn this over and see how lucky I am or am not today. Good, no major goobers. This means that this was sliding really smoothly on the bed of my machine. One of the few times I'm grateful for such a dry climate. All right. So I've got that trimmed up a little bit. Don't worry about those. Those are going to go away in a minute. I'm going to take my tape off. I go through gobs and gobs of blue painter's tape. I think it's better for this than actually painting sometimes. Okay, there we go. All right, that's gone. Throw it away later. Let me pop this out of my hoop. And because I used a tear away on the back of this, I'm going to tear it away before I cut it out. If you use a cutaway, you're just going to cut it right along with the vinyl, which is the next step. But since I can get this out of here easily, I'm going to, and look at how those satin stitches perf that just wonderfully. But this is where, if you have a stretchy vinyl or you have a denser design than this, you're going to want to cut away so that you don't wind up with a whole bunch of buckles and puckers in your design. All right, I think I've got the most of the way out. I'm going to show you how I cut these. These are not my good ones. I've got 2 pair of these duckbill scissors. Now I'll get it started here. I made a bit of a mess getting ready for this today. So I'm going to use these duckbill scissors with the duckbill down. I'm going to try to keep them as straight as I can. First I'm going to rough cut and get some of the extra bulk out from around it. It makes it easier to turn. And as I'm cutting, oh yeah, see, these are not my favorite scissors. They're a little loose and sometimes they make a jaggy like that. Okay, so rough cut around it. And then I'm going to try to keep them as perpendicular to the fabrics or the vinyl straight up and down as I can, because that's going to help the front and the back cut evenly. So I'm going to show you here, and I'm going to turn the vinyl, not the scissors. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so you get the idea, and I'm going to go somewhere between, I don't know, 1/8 and a little bit less, maybe 3/16. Doesn't really matter as long as you try to keep it even and don't overthink it. Like most things in life, it works better if you're not thinking too hard about it. So I've given you kind of an idea of how to do this. I'm going to pause the video for a minute, finish cutting this out, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about snaps and hardware. All right, through the magic of video editing, I'm done cutting out our fob. I wanted to mention, because I forgot, and I often forget to do this, right after I put the vinyl on the back of the hoop, ready to put it back under the machine, I don't want white thread on that bottom. I want it to match what I'm using in the top. So I use just a small wind of the same thread I used on the top, on the bottom, in the bobbin, and that way I get nice red stitching on both sides. Okay, so now we're going to punch our holes for the snaps, and I've got an ancient and very dull hole punch, leather punch. I think it belonged to my husband before we were married, and I absconded with it. So it takes me a fair amount of work to get through these. I'm using the smallest setting on my particular hole punch. You can pick up, you know, an okay one at, you can get a really nice one at Tandy Leather if you want to spoil yourself, or you can get one on Amazon that'll do the job. And my phone is as old and tired as I am and ran out of space. I had to go delete some stuff, but I'm back now. I got this hole punched. I don't know where it cut me off. I think I was saying that you can punch these little holes with an awl. I like using this smallest setting on my hole punch just because it gives a place for the little spike to go through without any distortion. But really, the spikes are so tiny that if you just punch through with an awl, that will work as well. That one got punched a little low, but that's okay. Done is better than perfect, as the quilter Angela Walters likes to say. All right. So you're going to have 2 caps, and you're going to have an innie and an outie, and I forgot to grab my press, so let me grab my pliers. Not sure how well this is going to show on video, but my husband built me this lovely stand for the tabletop cam snap pliers. Cam snaps are what I'm using, and they have lots of great pliers, including some table mounted ones. I don't really have room for those, so I just use these. So I'm going to put the cap on the front. I'm going to flip it over, and I like to do the outie on the back here. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it's okay. It's a little low, but we're going to go with it. Okay, put it in the pliers. I'm going to tip this so you can see. Okay, and then I just press down. You can get hand pliers like this on Amazon that are cheaper, that are probably just fine if you're only doing a few of these, but I do a fair number of them, and I have arthritis, so this is easier on my hands. Okay, there's the cap on the front. Put this in the back and press down. And then I always test them, because if you don't push hard enough, they're not going to snap. Okay, that one snaps just fine. All right. And I don't suppose I actually got a lobster clasp out, so I'm going to disappear for a minute. All right, I am back. So we have our fob. I like using gunmetal hardware with Goth stuff. I just think it looks great, but you could certainly use silver or rainbow or any other color that you wanted to. Slide it on the strap, snap it, and you're done. So I have lots of good stuff for you on our Facebook group, our Facebook page, and of course designs are available on the Etsy store. All of those links are here on the YouTube channel. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.